Now, there's one thing I want to note just before I start this tutorial. I am currently using Blender 2.81. When you download Blender, or you'll be most likely downloading the latest version of Blender, which is I think Blender, somewhere around Blender 4.1. I want you to note there's going to be some key difference. There might be some differences from what I do compared to what you do, depending on when they change the keybinds of certain things. So if you see a keybind not go right when you're using Blender, I recommend just looking up how you go about doing it. Also, you don't have to download the Blender I have. If it's convenient for you, go ahead. But there's no strict requirement on what Blender you have to use for NavalArt. So let's start this tutorial. So when you start Blender, you'll be seeing something like this, which is a camera, a light, a cube, and it's all contained in a world, a scene, and these three objects are contained in a collection right here. For our purposes, we won't be needing them, so let's just delete them. And let's add the pedestal. The pedestal is the easiest thing to work on because it's just a cylinder. And when you spawn it, it's going to be a 32-sided cylinder. Now, you don't need all of those sides. What I'm going to mention in a future tutorial is teaching you how to smooth objects. As you see in some mods on the workshop, they're smoothed out compared to all flat-faced sides. Now, it's you're better off in terms of quality smoothing it out compared to leaving it all flat-faced. More like a preferential thing, and it just makes it seem more high quality than just leaving it as flat faces. But we also don't need this amount of faces on a cylinder. We can always reduce it down, and smoothing allows that to happen. But we're not going to teach that right now, so just for future's sake, let's just trim this down. We don't need 32 sides, we just need 16. Alright, but we also want it to be flush with the bottom, just where the y-axis is. So let's go into here and go into edit mode. Let's change it to face select. But we also want to be able to X-ray, because if we do this, it's going to select the sides and just the sides and the bottom. We don't want that. What I want to do is go to X-ray and just select the bottom face. But we can always move it here. But see how it's not really mentioning where it is in the world space? This is just a transformation of just the cylinder itself. We want to be able to edit just the location of the face. So let's press N, or you could just click on this, and this will pop up. Now see how it's on local, let's change it to global. Now let's put this to 0. Now the bottom face of the cylinder is flush with the y-axis. But we also don't want it to be too tall, so let's grab this and let's say reduce it down to 0.25. I think that should be good enough, and let's click off. And now you see we have the cylinder. The pedestal is okay, so let's go in here, double click, and name it pedestal. You don't have to touch this anymore. So let's now work on the turret. So let's insert a cube. Now we want it to be on the top face of the cylinder. We can always, oh, it's at 0.25 and this is a 2, but these are cube. You can always do 1.25 and it's going to be on the top face, but honestly, we really don't need to do that. So let's go into here. Let's increase it by 1. Now the bottom face of this cube is at the just where the y-axis is. Let's do Control A. This will allow me to apply certain things to the cube. And let's apply location. Now the origin point of the cube is flush with the y-axis, and now we could do 0.25. Now it's on the top face of the cylinder. Now let's add some details to this. I'm gonna extend this out to, let's say, 2. But we can't just have a cube, because if we do something like this, the entire face changes. We want to have more sides we can edit so we can customize the way it looks. So let's do a loop cut. You see this yellow line right here? It's going to be flush with the center. Click here and click here. Now it's centered on these faces. But for this line right here, it's too far in the back. But we want to select all of these lines. So hold Alt and left click will select this loop, edge loop. And now, let's say we wanted to move it to 0. So now it's 0 on the x-axis. Now let's continue messing with this. So I want to grab this and I want to say, okay, if the pencil pops out then let's say 0.9 might be fine. Yep. And let's go here and negative 0.9. Grab the back. Say 0.75. And up here, negative 0.75. But we also wanted to have, some sort of curve on the back. So let's grab these two and push it back by negative 0.125. Look at that. But from the side, it looks tall. It looks boring. It looks like a KV turret. A KV2 turret. So let's grab these and let's push it back to create a front slope with 0.3 and push it down to, let's say, about here. So negative 0.15. Now from the side, it looks much better. Though, I think for now, I'm going to grab this top. So let's do this. Grab the top and let's put it down, I don't know, negative 0.2. 4 maybe? I think 0.4 should work. Alright. Now the turret's done. So let's work on the barrel. First, let me just change this turret and bam. Now let's work on the barrel. Let's hide these two because these aren't as important for what you need to be looking at. Let's add a cylinder. Yet again, you don't need that many sides. If you're looking at it from far away and it's smoothed out, it doesn't really matter. Unless it's like so small, let's say you have 4 sides, then it becomes a little too noticeable. So let's do 12. Now, we want this flat face to be looking towards the y-axis. We don't want it to be looking towards the z-axis. So let's do 90 on the x. And now it's facing towards the y-axis. But we also want to reduce the shape. So let's just change it here. I think, let's check. Pull this down. Okay, and pull this to the side. Okay. Let's change it to a 5-inch barrel. So let's do 0.127. And now it's 127. We also want it to be long enough. So let's do perhaps a 4-meter barrel. Pretty long, but for our purposes, it should be fine. Let's just duplicate that. But you might be wondering how I did that. So let's go back. I'll go back and let's do Shift D. Now don't left click. If you left click, it'll be left floating in the world and you have these many numbers. You don't need them. Just do Shift D and then right click and it'll push it back to where you just duplicated it from. Now these are stacked on top of each other. We don't want that. So let's change it to, let's say, 0.175. You can see the inner tube is currently Z-fighting with this tube. Now maybe wondering, why do I still have this? Well, let's just increase it by 0.1 meters and go here And you want to go to modifier properties and add a modifier called a boolean. Don't touch anything. Well, you're gonna have to touch something, and it's this right here. Grab this and select the original cylinder that you created. Now let's hide this, press H, and now if you look inside, it's hollowed out. So the boolean has hollowed out the tube. Now we want to have some more depth to it. We're not going to apply just yet. We want to start working on the model. So let's go, add a loop cut here. I think that one should be fine. And you want to separate these. Because if we work on this, for example, and we go like this, you could do something like this, and then something like this, and that's okay, but it doesn't look that great. So let's add something. Go here to face select and select these faces and press Y. Y separates these models that you selected from other pieces that are also existing on the model. So now if I pull this away, they're not connected. So I'll just change this just a little bit. So let's say flush. So 1.5, for example. Now, if you're looking from the side, 1.15. Now, if you're looking from the side, it's gonna look great. But if you're looking from the front, you just change height. So also remember to check where the side is. It's right there, so 1.15. And now it looks like this. Now let's also change the back as well. So just to add, let's do some minor detailing. So let's grab this, Alt select, and increase it by 1.05. Let's go back here, loop select, and let's do 1.7.5. No, 1.25 should be fine. All right. Now we also want to fix this. There's currently a hole in the model, so let's collect this and this and press F. F would create a new face, but we don't want to keep going like this all the time. Select this face, this edge right here, just press F and see how it automatically does that? Now hold F and bam, it does it for you. No need to go through all the effort of selecting edge, face, edge, face. Now, when we created this model, we have this boolean coming through. Now, if you're looking from the front of a barrel, you don't want to be seeing it all the way through. It's a little frustrating because there's nothing at the end of the barrel. We don't really want people to looking at the end of the barrel. We really don't want to add detail at the end of the barrel just to compensate for that. So let's go here and delete the back face. X face. Now if you see, the tube now cuts off where the cylinder was. And so now that we're on perfectly fine with the barrel the way it looks, let's apply the boolean. And now if we're looking from the front, alright, it looks okay, but no one wants to be looking inside of a barrel and seeing a flat face at the end. So let's mimic something like the barrel's continuing forward. So go here and select this face. What you want to do is combine it all together into one point. So let's do Alt M. And we want to do it at center. Now we've converted a face into one single vertex. Let's push that forward just a bit. So from 2.05, let's say, I think 0.5 should work. Alright. And now, voila, barrel. Now we won't be needing this. So let's delete that. Let's create and add this to the turret. Let's go here. Let's put that end at 0, so -2. Let's lift it up until I think 0.95. No, 0. Oh, just 1 works. 1 should work. Bam. Now we have a turret, but it really doesn't look right. So let's start working on booleans. Let's work further on booleans and apply it to this turret right here. So let's hide the barrel and let's hide the pedestal. We don't be needing these. And let's work on how we're gonna add something to this turret front. Let's add a cube. Actually, let's add the back, and we want it to be, snug fit. We don't want to be too large, but we don't want it to be too small. So let's lift this up to, let's say, we just want it to be where the barrel rotates. Well, plausibly can rotate from. And just work on this real quick. Alright, and let's add this as a boolean. And hide this. Now we have a slot for where the barrel pops out from, but it still doesn't look that great. So let's add a cylinder to this to mimic the gun port shield. And we also don't need that many faces, so let's do 8. Reduce it down. Now we need to be pointing towards the x-axis, so let's do 90 and bam. But also to note, if it's inside the barrel here, hold on, you don't need to be seeing these sides. These sides aren't going to be seen by the viewer if you're looking from far, far away. So let's delete these sides right here. These aren't going to be needed at all. And let's add it back, go up, and 0.8. And let's reduce it down just a little bit. A little bit extra should be fine. Let's crunch it down, but we also want to be at level with the barrel. So let's lift it up back up again. What's this? At 1, so let's put this at 1. And let's reduce it down a little bit. Bam! Now look at that. Not sticking out from the bottom. If we look inside here, we have faces that are also not being seen. We really don't need those as well, but let's just keep them for now. Let's see. I have a list here of what I need to do for this tutorial, and I'm trying to figure out what I wrote. You know what? I think it should be fine. I think I've teached you far enough for today. At least for this tutorial, at least. So let's wrap this up. We want to be joining some of these together. For example, this and this. These can be combined because we can actually just move this. And we don't have to be moving this. Also, we don't have to be changing the origin point of this, because if this is the center, then, this will become the new center of the barrel. So let's select these two and do Control J. And now we've joined these two together, and now, if we look at this, up, down, up, down. So let's actually see what the minimum is. I think it's just about 95? Or, yeah, let's see 95. Now if you look here, this back face right here isn't being used. We can actually just delete that. And now let's work on elevating it. Say just about here. So it goes all the way up to 20. This face is being seen, but not this face. So we can only delete this one. And we have two remainder ones that also aren't going to be seen. So let's delete these two and bam, gone. We don't need to be seeing those. Let's reset this to 90. Also 0, 0. Okay. But there's one important, oh, I forgot. Boolean, go away. Now, there's one important thing I haven't mentioned yet, and that is setting scale. See, if you were to import this into Unity, it's going to make sure that this is at scale 1, 1, 1. However, if we look at, not this, but let's say the barrel, for example. Oh wait, hold on, I forgot to apply. Oh my lordy. Actually apply that, and delete that, and now it's there. So if you select here, the scale is at 0.75, 0.75, and 0.25. What's important to Unity, it's actually going to look something like this, where it resets all to 1. See how that doesn't look right? Very much doesn't look right. This is not what we want. We want to set the scale. So let's go back and do Control A for the application, and let's do scale. And now the scale is applied, and this is the new scale. Now, when I made this model, I added it up by 0.25 up, but we want to add the origin point. So let's go here and go into Object, then go to Set Origin, and do Origin to 3D Cursor. This right here, this dotted line right here, red and white dotted line, that's the 3D cursor. So let's add this and put this to 0. Bam. But in future cases for this, for example, it's not going to be at the point you want it. And you want the, let's say, the origin point to be a little bit farther away. Let's say, I don't know, 0.2 meters from where it is. So let's add it to where it currently is. We want to go to View. And this is at 1. And so go here and put it to 1. But we also want to be 0.2 further, 0.2. Oh, no, negative 0.2. And let's also do that. Set origin to 3D cursor. And now it's set to just a little bit further than what it was originally. Oh, we don't want that, so let's set that back. Now, when you do Control Z, keep in mind, it's not going to reset this 3D cursor. 3D cursor is not going to be affected by Control Z, so you always want to reset this back to 0. And that should be it. We should be good. Now let's save this. Save. Just save it as something and you should be good. Alright. I'll be seeing you in the next tutorial. Hello, this is Edward from the future. When I was examining the clips I made for this video, there's one thing I forgot to mention, and that it's important that you need to remember when you're finished with your design that you need to make sure it's in the correct rotation. While this looks perfectly fine, when it's actually imported into Unity, it'll actually look something like, hold on. Look more like something like this, where it's pointing towards the upper Z axis instead of looking forward. Now, it's just the way the game is programmed. I'm not really sure about the specifics of it, but what you need to understand is to set it up so it doesn't look like this, so you don't have to do the editing in Unity. So let's do this fix. As you already see, I put these to x negative 90. And once you do that, do Control A and set the rotation. Now, x for both of these is 0. From there, you just need to add 90 to the x-axis, and the model should already be good. You don't need to worry about this because the barrel is technically already at 90. It isn't. Why did... Hold on. negative 90, rotation 90. Well, won't you look at that? Why am I playing this video? Well, won't you look at that? Now, remember, by when you're finished with this project, remember that all three objects need to have x90, no matter what, and it's facing the y-axis. So keep these in mind when you're going through your project, and even if you don't do it, by the time you import it into Unity, you will understand that you probably forgot to apply the rotation. So, this has been Future Ed. I'll see you in the next tutorial.